even though many men have friends and enjoy the company of other men. But I think they're confusing competition between men with friendship. It's like you can only have
they
one.
don't know how to integrate. I mean, male friendships that are optimized are competitive in the extreme, often on the basis of humor.
Yeah, so they confuse. They think it's either competitive or friends, and the combination of the two they cannot see. And I think for men, for sure, that combination exists. Men can be rivals and competitors, but half an hour later they're laughing with each other. Let me tell you a funny story. There was once a swimming trainer in the Netherlands who trained girls for swimming competition, and she switched to boys. And then I saw this interview with her in the newspaper. Why did you switch to boys? And she said, well, if the girls on the team have a fight that starts in the early season, they will have that fight going for the whole season. It will not stop. If the boys have a fight, they drink in the evening, they drink a beer, and the next day they don't even remember the fight anymore, she says.
And or they have a fight, and then they reconcile, and the fight is over. So so I want to use that as a segue into something else you wrote, so we can talk about it. So I want to read something again from the introduction. And I don't know if you agreed with this, or if you were saying it as a summary of someone else's thought, but you said, it's easy to see why male and female patterns of aggression are valued so differently. Only the first creates trouble in society. And so let me riff on that for a sec and then turn it over to you. So I think this observation you made about the swim teams is extremely interesting, because we studied male pattern aggressive behavior, which tends to involve physical violence, and female pattern aggressive behavior in humans. And what the females do is gossip, backbite, and destroy reputations. And the female antisocial types are really, really good at that, and they're vicious. And the thing that differentiates those right now, so in such a cardinal manner, in my estimation, is that female aggression scales on the internet and male aggression does not. And so, we know that the online world is vicious in a very particular way, and I think a big part of it is that it actually can't be settled. So part of the reason that women have difficulty in conflict is because men can resort to fighting, and that will produce an alteration it'll produce a cessation of the conflict in a very real sense, one way or another, right? But when women are embroiled in a conflict, well, they can't fight physically, and so they do get caught in this conundrum. So one of the problems that our society really wrestles with at the moment is that it's very difficult to control untrammeled female pattern aggression. And so I think it is causing a tremendous amount of trouble, and that reputation damaging, you just see that constantly on social media platforms. And so I don't know if that was your thought or if it was a thought that you were summarizing, but I'm kind of curious about your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so I make a distinction in my book between two ways of keeping the peace. One is peacemaking, the other one is peacekeeping. The males in chimpanzees, the males are very good at peacemaking. They have a fight, and then they get together, they kiss and embrace, and then they groom each other, and they cycle through this all the time. It's a very easy process for them. And they have more fights than females. And I think what the females do, the females reconcile less when they have a fight, less often than the males, because they have more trouble with that, I think. And what the females do is stay away from your rivals, stay away from fights, stay away from individuals that you're likely to will have a fight. I call that peacekeeping, is that they suppress aggression and they stay away from those.
All right. So let's look at that in the human case. So one of the biological temperamental differences that you see between men and women is that women are higher in negative emotion. That starts in puberty, because boys and girls are the same, and it doesn't change throughout the life course, and women are more agreeable. And so that combination, so agreeable people are conflict avoidant. Now, agreeableness is empathy, and that's supposed to be a cardinal virtue, but the downside of agreeableness and empathy is conflict avoidance. And so, and you, if you add to that,
conflict avoidance is emotionally taxing. So I think
well, it's also practically a problem because it means that if someone pushes on you that you have to negotiate with, you have to avoid, or you won't push back. And what the hell are you going to do on the negotiating front if that's the case? Say at your workplace, you can't avoid your boss.
But the interesting thing is that both strategies are actually quite successful. We did a study of human behavior in the hospitals. We looked at operating rooms and we looked at how well men and women work together. And female cooperation is really highly developed. Female teams, not all female teams, but females on a team works very well. And so I think both sexes have a good strategy. One is to suppress conflict. The other one is to reconcile very easily. So they're both good strategies and they're both quite effective, but they're totally different.
Okay, so let me push you on that just for a sec then. So let's take an optimal female cooperating group. See, the conundrum I think they run into, and I think this is the conundrum of compassion in general, is that that's just fine until you throw a predator in. And so a group like that that's actually made out of pure cooperators can work just fine. But if you throw in a woman who has antisocial personality, which would be manifested, say, as borderline personality disorder, which looks like the clinical equivalent of ASP in females, or if you throw in a real predator, if the cooperators can't avoid and they can't oppose, all they have left is to fall victim to the predator. And that's why I think that women are in this weird evolutionary conundrum because they have to find men who are disagreeable enough to stave off the real predators, but agreeable enough to be generous with their productive competence, right? And so it's this knife edge, because a little too far in either direction is not good. So is there a flaw in my reasoning there? Is with regards to the Achilles heel, let's say, of female cooperative groups?
No, I think it is true that we have always underestimated female competitiveness. In the psychological literature, males were always called hierarchical and competitive, and not females. And now we know that there's plenty of female competition and there's plenty of female hierarchies. Actually, the word pecking order comes from hens, not from roosters. And in the animal kingdom, lots of females have hierarchies, have alpha females and so on. So I think it's important to point out always that female competition is maybe less physical, but it's not absent.
Well, it's probably also not competition about